you for coming tonight. It's great to have you here. It's wonderful to see you. As Anne said, thank you for that, Anne. My name is Elizabeth Alfano, and you are at something different tonight. So you are at Fear No Art Presents the Dinner Party. How many of you have been to Taste of Chicago Celebrity Chef du Jour tent in years past? Woo! Okay, so great number of you. So this is going to roll a little differently. What I do on Fear No Art Presents the Dinner Party is I invite 3 celebs, usually who don't know each other, and a prominent chef who cooks for them. So over food and drinks and desserts, the unscripted conversations flow. So that sounds pretty good, but the better part is that you're part of it. So as you all know, you're getting great food tonight from Michelin star restaurant Sepia and Iron Chef winner Chef Andrew Zimmerman. So entrees and appetizers and dessert, great, and we're all gonna have that together. But what's even better is that you guys are part of the conversation. So what you do is pull out your cell phones, get your handy dandy Twitter fingers ready, and send me a tweet at DinnerPartyCHGO. DinnerPartyCHGO. Now, we're not fooling around because it pays to tweet. If your tweet is picked for me to ask a question of one of the guests on stage, you're going to win dinner for 2 at Sepia. I don't know if you all got that. You're going to win dinner for 2 at Sepia. Okay, it's not nothing. It's dinner for 2 at Sepia. You're going to win tickets to the Court Theater. You're going to win things from Pure Leaf. Just great stuff all around. So, get out your phones. Get ready on Twitter, and I should tell you, you have a little bit of competition because we're streaming live tonight on tasteofchicago.us. So lots of people are watching us live, they're Twittering as well, and you're Twittering in. So while you get set on Twitter, I'm going to give you a couple of logistic things. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Rahm Emanuel, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, City of Chicago, Michelle Boone, Commissioner, and then of course Ann Hickey, who is on this stage, and she's really done an amazing job because you're getting a 3-course meal in a tent. So that should tell you already she's done an amazing job. I also want to thank, of course, Pure Leaf. They're wonderful. And tea, as I just learned by reading the book Drinking with George by George Wendt, that tea is the 2nd most popular drink in the world. So I didn't know that. So drink your Pure Leaf tea. I also want to thank Washburn Culinary College because they're doing a great job tonight. Yes, Washburn. And yes, we're Ann Hickey. And then I'll just repeat what Anne said. If you want drinks, and of course we know you do, drink tickets are over here, and then you get your actual drinks back there. So okay, enough logistics. Let's start with our show. I want to bring out my first guest. She started as a lawyer, but luckily that smart girl moved her way to Windy City Live as the social media producer and foodie in residence. Please welcome Ji Suk-yi. Come on, Ji, come on down.
Oh my God! Sorry. I'm running.
Run on down. So usually I do this show every month at City Winery. Come sit there.
Thanks.
I do this show every month at City Winery and people just pop out from the stage. But here we're doing a little bit of a wedding ceremony kind of thing. So, oh, you're over there.
Oh, sorry. Ooh, I already messed up.
Okay, so our next guest, such an honor to have her here. And I know that many of you in the audience already know her. She is a Tony Award nominee. She's been nominated for so many Jeff Awards, I can't even count. She's an actress known best probably for her work as Sophia in the Oprah Winfrey production of The Color Purple on Broadway. But it's not just her acting, it's her pipes as well. I think of her as the Pipes of Chicago. She's a phenomenal singer, which she'll do for us tonight. Please welcome Felicia Fields, also coming from the back. Oh, Felicia, yay. She's great. Really great. Oh, yeah. So everybody knows Felicia. It's hard not to know Felicia. Wonderful to have you here. I'm going to put you right next to Ji. Oh, good thing. See how collaborative we are here? It's a community. Because that's basically what we do on the dinner party is we bring people together over food and we give away great stuff. That's what we do. Okay, my final guest. And this really is a treat. I don't know if you guys know just how lucky your night is tonight. This really is a treat. He's an author, he's an actor, and he is the consummate Chicagoan, the ultimate superfan. He has also done a little drag on stage. We'll talk to him all about it. Please welcome the wonderful George Wendt.
Right. Got it.
We think he'll make it. Just taking a little break. Wonderful to have George on stage.
No. Thank you.
These stairs are a bit wobbly, but I think we got you.
Okay.
We got you. Okay.
Little wobbly.
So we're going to put you right there.
All right.
Back in there.
George is
Yowza. And we're going to start our dinner party, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention Chef Andrew Zimmerman again, because he's working so hard in the kitchen, bringing out your food right now. Okay, so I brought you all together because you actually have something in common, and I want to talk to you all about this, but I can't really focus on you right now because I know that there's great food coming our way. So let's see what Chef Andrew Zimmerman is doing in the kitchen.
Hi, I'm Andrew Zimmerman. I'm the chef at Sepia Restaurant at 123 North Jefferson Street in the West Loop. Welcome to the dinner party. The first course that we're going to do tonight is going to be a sweet corn and shrimp salad with a corn custard, coconut, cilantro, and chaat masala. And the first thing we need to do is make the shrimp and corn salad. So we're starting with some nice local sweet corn, and then we're going to add some simply blanched shrimp, a couple Fresno chilies. We're going to use a little bit of diced Melrose pepper as well, which is going to give us pepper flavor without too much heat. And chaat masala, indispensably delicious, which you find in a lot of Indian street snacks. It has a little bit of heat, but more importantly, it has a really cool acidic flavor and a really funky flavor from what's called pink salt. So now we're going to plate our shrimp and corn chaat masala salad. On the plate here we already have a sweet corn custard, and then we're going to build the rest of the dish around that. Just a little bit of cilantro. And some coconut. And a little bit of crispy black rice. And there you are, your first course, a salad of sweet corn and shrimp with coconut, chaat masala, cilantro, and crispy black rice.
So we're going to bring the chef out just to talk to us for a minute so we know what it is we're eating. Chef Andrew Zimmerman coming down the marriage line. Woo, thanks for joining us. Hop on stage, sir. So great to have you. I have a question for you. So we filmed this video at Sepia, of course, in the kitchen. And just when we were filming, he had gobs of people coming for lunch. And I wanted to know how you stay so level-headed. I mean, here you are, 175 people in a tent, and he's making great food for you. So how do you stay so level-headed in the chaos?
I don't know.
Huh? Is that on? We're having lots of technical issues today.
I could just yell. Oh, that's
There you
better.
go.
How do I don't know. I don't have a choice. If I freak out, it's not gonna go well. If I freak out, then everybody else freaks out. I mean, it's fun to yell at them. My cooks, I enjoy that, but it doesn't get anything done faster usually. Then they freak out. So I have learned over the years to not freak out.
Well, how many of you have been to Sepia? Yes. Oh, so quite
right,
a few.
not bad, thanks.
The rest of you don't know what you're missing. We're all going. Can you handle us? We'll all go. We'll all go as a group effort.
Okay, who's gonna call the bus?
That would be Ann Hickey from the city of Chicago.
And please organize the bus.
Okay.
Cool. Well, the thing that's more of a freak out is standing in the back listening to myself talk.
Yes, well,
That's disconcerting.
I understand how that goes. Talk to me a little bit about your food, and then I'll let you go back to the kitchen because I know you're working on our entrees. You do globally infused contemporary American. Explain that.
Okay, that's my catch-all for I cook whatever I like, and my catch-all for I can American melting pot whatever I want onto a plate. And as long as it has some sort of sensible, I don't know, structure, at least it works in my head, I'm okay with it. And hopefully, as long as it's delicious, then you're okay with it. And you know, people ask me, so what kind of food do you cook? And I can't say I cook Italian food because I don't. And I can't say I cook French food because I don't,
Right.
exclusively or whatever. So I needed to come up with some way of explaining it that wasn't a half an hour of like, well, you know, and I do this, and I like to try this thing. So those are the 4 shortest words I could come up with.
Well, I have to say, whenever I go to Sepia, I am so grateful because it is such fantastic food without the big deal, without the big to-do, without the attitude. I mean, it is just solid good every time, so I want to thank you for that.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so you're going to be back.
Yeah.
I'll hold on to your mic. You're going to be back, and we'll see you around entree time.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chef. Okay, so we are all drinking and eating with you, so feel free to just dig right in. So
All right.
the reason I wanted to bring these guys together is because you all have something really in common, and that is, I'm going to start with Felicia, but I'll talk to everybody. You maybe knew that it was going to be a hit because it's the Oprah Winfrey production of The Color Purple. So that's got to give you a clue that it's going to be a big hit. But, you know, gee, you didn't know if Windy City Live would take off, and you probably didn't know if Cheers would take off. And so I'm wondering, I interviewed Kevin Kline last week, and he said, when I read a script, I know right away it's going to go. And I wondered if you guys had that sense about any of your projects.
I definitely didn't realize how important that piece would be. I had read the book,
Yes.
and it was a very intense book. The first thing I thought was, how are you going to take this book
Yeah.
and make it a musical?
Right.
But there was so much information, so many experiences that people could identify with.
Sure.
And there were many days on Broadway that women would come up to me and say that they appreciated the performances because they had been abused and different things like that.
Yes.
So that character really was a kind of heroine in the show.
So I know this is tricky because this is something that you don't usually do at Taste of Chicago. Usually you don't have this, but it'd be great for us all to be able to hear. So if it's possible to sort of keep it to a dull roar out there. I can understand why you thought it would be a hit because it connects to so many people if you've been abused.
Yes.
But what about you guys? I mean, did you have any sense, George, that Cheers would take off?
No sense at all. First of all, on the subject of Cheers, I'd like
Hey,
to raise
yes.
a glass. Everybody, cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you all for
Yes.
coming.
Thank you for coming. And cheers to you guys, yes.
Cool.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for coming.
Look at me with the white wine, though. What's wrong with this picture? I don't know.
And the three
You want
women.
a beer?
3 women and white wine. George is changing. He's turning over a new leaf.
Yeah. I didn't think the odds are totally against any TV project being a hit.
Yeah, sure.
So it was foolish of me to think Cheers would be. I knew it would be good, though.
Yes. Because
And
of the
good
characters
doesn't
or
always mean a hit because of the writing.
because of the writing. Yes. It's what you look for. That's what Kevin Kline said, that he could tell right away from the writing in some of his movies that would be good. But for you in Windy City Live, I mean, it's just roll the dice.
Well, I mean, there's actually something wonderful about being completely unknown and a complete screw up. I feel like, you know, I was a very late bloomer and I was kind of a little bit of a ne'er-do-well. You know, like if you're unknown, you have nothing to lose.
Yes.
So for me, when I was first hired for Windy City Live, it wasn't even to be on air. I was hired as a producer.
I know.
And then as we were going through practicing with the hosts, the 2 main hosts, Val and Ryan, I was with them every day because I was hired as the news producer.
Yes.
And then slowly, like, they would bring me into the conversation because we were in these closed door meetings. And then slowly it developed where my executive producer, who's a very creative woman, decided, and some would say a little bit crazy, she was like, hey, you know, I think they could use you.
Yes.
So let's do this. So before the show officially launched, she says, you're going to be on air with them. So in that case, it's a complete no-brainer because, like, what do I have to lose?
Right.
There's something wonderfully freeing about being at the bottom of the barrel.
Wow.
Because then you're not afraid to take that leap, because
Right.
it doesn't matter what happens to you, and that's, that rarely comes in your life. And luckily, I was blessed to have that period for a little while, and it happened
Yes.
right at the right time.
I think that's so true because no expectation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you
And
come
it frees you.
when you come into a show and your name is on the marquee, people have an expectation.
Yes.
If your name is not the name that's being
No.
publicized, you can come in as the horse that's
Right.
the dark horse coming in and win the race. And I really applaud Windy City because
Yes, me
I
too.
had been there only several days before they became Windy City, and Oprah, to come behind Oprah's
I
show.
know. To follow Oprah, the Oprah Winfrey
Yeah.
Show.
I
think
was
so.
like, I don't know about this.
And that's the funny thing is that everybody said, I don't know about
Yeah.
this. And then it ended up being a huge success. So we were just talking about Windy City Live and how they didn't know that it was going to be a big hit. And G sort of started just as a fluke. And
Yeah.
when you start with no expectations, nobody knows your name.
Yeah. You can be, the nicest thing is you can be totally fearless when you don't have anything to lose and
Yes.
you're a complete nobody. I think the hardest part about continuing to live your life is to maintain that sense of fearlessness that you had because you had nothing to lose.
Yes.
So I think that requires like really not holding on too tightly. We're a local show, so that means, there aren't many local talk shows in the country, and so every day it's a battle, every day it's a struggle. We hope to be renewed. We have a wonderful support from our station, but it's just, they're few and far between.
Yes.
So
right.
you kind of just have to live in the moment and do the best work you possibly can. Of course, there's like budgetary restraints, there's all these other
Sure,
things,
sure.
but you do the best you can. And then I think for me, it's important for me to just be like, hey, look, like I wasn't supposed to be here, but I am, and so I need to maintain that sense of like fearlessness about whatever choices I go to next.
You know, it's funny because you're in the limelight, but I think what she's saying relates to what a lot of people have throughout their lives. This fear that kind of overtakes you of what will people think, or what if I fail, or what if it doesn't go well? And holding on to that fearlessness, I think is very empowering.
Yes. And of course, wine helps too.
Yes, wine always helps,
A
as
good
we
glass
know.
helps every day.
But this, I think, is a great question. You said, G wasn't supposed to be on Windy City Live.
Yeah.
And then you ended up there. And so I know how hard all of you work, and yet there's a little bit of luck in some things sometimes. So, we say one of my favorite quotes from Nick Bowlings, who's the director of the Timeline Theater. In LA and New York, they have to focus on the hit. And focusing on the hit can take away from the work. But in Chicago, we focus on the work, and that can make for better work sometimes. And so I wondered if you guys could comment your careers, how much is luck and how much has been work? I'll start with George.
Well, a lot of work, and a lot of that was done in Chicago.
Right.
My first 6 years was the work here in Chicago. Second City for the most part,
Yes.
and the odd commercial and the odd movie that passed through town. And then there was luck involved even in that, though, because I auditioned for Second City. I was about 25 years old, 26, and I didn't get in. And then I was crushed, and then this touring company had a gig in Cleveland in a nightclub called Pickle Bill's. And the local promoter there convinced them to stay and be a resident company in Cleveland. So they had to replace an entire touring company, like 6 or 7 people at once. So boom, like out of nowhere, I got a call back. Let's try the auditions again.
Wow.
And I was lucked into the touring company that way.
Wow, so I don't know if everyone heard that. George was almost not on Second City, which has led to everything else in your career.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Wow.
George, are you amazed at the output of Second City, like to this day? Like,
Yes.
Yeah,
they're
it's
constantly churning out stars.
pretty amazing. I think part of it has to do with, they have a good eye for talent coming out of their training center, and they do a good job at the training center. But also, oh yeah, thanks. Okay, but also I think just sheer experience is important. You know, we're one of the very few theaters, Felicia can tell you, where we work 8 shows a week, 52 weeks a year, sometimes for years.
Right.
Like I was there for 6 years, and you know, most actors don't get that kind of experience. Frankly, if they're lucky, they get they take their classes, they do their due diligence preparing to get work. They get a job. It rehearses for 2-3 weeks. They run for 2-3 weeks, and then they're on the street again. You know, seriously, that's a lucky actor who
Right.
gets to work at all. We got to work for months and months and months. Well, you know, years. So tremendous amount of experience helps. But you know, in terms of luck with jobs, the best is John Ratzenberger. When he was auditioning for Cheers, he was auditioning for the same role as me, and he felt like it wasn't going well. So he was literally, they're like, well, thank you very much. And he's like, thank you. And he's walking out the door, and he has one foot literally out the door.
Wow.
He pops his head back in and says, do you have a bar know-it-all? And they go, no, what do you mean? And he started improvising as this Cliff Clavin character. And they started laughing, and they wrote him into the show.
Wow. But
So
you know,
there's chutzpah and luck.
and talent, though, to be able to seek that right at the moment and jump in. So John Ratzberger was Cliffy on Cheers, and he kind of worked his way into the script. That also says Die Hard. He really wanted it. He didn't want to leave that place without something. And you've got to have that. But how do you feel about how much luck has played into, this is a little better, our mics now, how much luck has played into what you do?
I think that destiny is
Yeah.
something that's very important in people's lives. I think people are here for a purpose, and sometimes they can connect with that, and sometimes they don't.
Right.
There were several things that happened that led me to be able to be in theater. I started off thinking I was going to be a teacher, and it wound up that someone came to my church and changed my whole life.
In your church?
In my church, yes. And I worked for free for them and putting demo tapes together and singing for little of nothing. And someone heard me singing and said, you should audition for The Wiz. And I auditioned for The Wiz at the Marriott Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
And that was in 1986.
Wow.
And I haven't stopped working since that time.
Yeah.
I've had valleys and peaks, you know, because that's what an actor's life is like. People see you on stage and they say you're having fun, and you do have fun. But then there are times when you're on the edge where the lights might be getting ready to get turned off. So you have to have a strong constitution. I really feel that being an actor is like playing Monopoly. It's the longest game in the world. And as long as your piece is on the board, you're in the game.
You're still in it, yeah.
But the minute you take your piece off the board,
Right.
you out the game.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is we can all be sitting here right now. It's the nature of what we do. We can all be sitting here right now, and someone in LA is discussing something that they have their mind for you to do. Your life can change just on a dime like that.
Right.
Most people who work in an office, they don't have that.
Yes.
But in the profession that we work in, our resume is constantly being reviewed.
Well, so this is an interesting question. How do you manage your hope then? Because you have these hills, these peaks and valleys, and I think this is true for everyone, even if you're not in the entertainment world. You know, you're up for a job, you want to change, you want your life to go in a different direction. How do you manage your hope when you just don't know when the next good thing is coming, or if it's coming? There's these peaks and these valleys. I guess we're sharing. I don't know how to...
Go ahead. I don't have
I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I think it ties in with what Felicia said. I think you do have to have a little hope in something divine, something more powerful than you. You know, it's funny, we have a lot of interns on Windy City Live, and they always ask me for advice. And my story doesn't necessarily help them because I had a great injection of divinity in my path. But what I do tell them is I say, if you can't imagine yourself doing anything else, don't even try it. Because I tried to do that. I went to law school because, being a good little Asian American immigrant girl, my family wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer because those are the only two jobs they thought existed in the world where I could be safe and secure and make a difference. And I was always drawn to the creative. But I would never let myself give in to that. So what I tell people is if that's your dream and that's your hope, that's who you are, don't even try to fight it. Because if that's meant for you, divinity will have a way of pulling you back in that path. And that's what happened to me. And so I think that's how you manage your hope. You manage your hope by saying, I didn't even plan to get here, and somehow I got here. So my hope is that whatever is happening, whatever is divine, whatever that piece of you that pushes you to be creative, that's not going to be satiated until you pursue it and hope. So I don't even know if that makes sense.
There used to be, well, there still is one of the precepts of improvisation from the late Del Close, our director at Second City, was follow the fear. And that's an interesting concept for improvisation technique, but I would say follow the fun.
Yes,
And that's what I always tell people who ask me, like, how do you have any advice for somebody starting out in entertainment or acting? And I just say, have fun. Have fun with every single bit of it. Have fun with the work. Have fun with the not working. Have fun with the search for work. Have fun with the auditions. Go in there. They're your audience. It's it's 175 people in a tent in Grant Park. It's two people in a room, a casting director
Yes, right.
and a producer or a director or something, and they're your audience.
Yes.
Do what you do. Knock it out of the park.
Yes.
Have fun. Have fun with the entire and all your friends. Bond with all your like-minded fellow traveler, young aspiring actors and writers, and have a ball. Because if you're not having fun, the hell with it all. Exactly. Really, it's just way too hard.
Thank you to the front half of the room that is listening. I think my mic is working now. I'm going to leave you this one. I think mine's working. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same. If you're not having fun, just don't bother, because life really is too short. And doing something that you don't love is like lifting heavy furniture. I mean, it's just painful, and you just drudge it every day. So, and I'd rather be poor and happy, which is basically my case. I'd rather be poor and happy, but every day I'm loving what I do. So, okay, so I have a tweet for George, and I just want to say that this very lucky person is winning not only a tote bag from Pure Leaf, and it's filled with lots of great stuff, but they're also winning some signed paraphernalia from George here, which is really fun. So,
What kind of paraphernalia would that be?
That would, if you'd like to sign your underwear,
I
you
don't
can.
carry any paraphernalia. Honest, I really don't.
Thank you. Well, socks, underwear, this will all do.
Okay.
At Oyer Greg for George, what is your favorite meal to cook, and what food can't you live without? Hey, that was my question. Good for you.
That would be ribs and ribs.
There you go. Ribs and ribs.
My man.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, ribs are really fun to cook. It
Yes.
involves time and beer and usually, the backyard and company and then the payoff is it's wonderful. Ribs.
Do you find, all three of you, because we talk about this feast or famine, like it's either going great or it's not, do you adjust your life for that? So do you have ribs even if you're not on a gig?
Heck yeah.
I have ribs, especially when I'm not on a gig.
Okay.
Because I do have, I've been very fortunate over the decades to stay, pretty darn busy. But, you can't be cooking ribs or eating ribs if you're in the middle of a project, it's just, you know, it's
Yes.
just not. First of all, you're at the theater, and it's just not.
Yes. Yes.
Now, mind you, I can, and have cooked ribs at midnight, after
believe
the
you.
show, but. But I'm sorry, I lost the thread there.
No, no, you got it. Just you still eat ribs even when you're not flush.
Yeah, ribs. Yeah,
Ribs, it's a staple in your life.
yeah.
What about you, ladies? Anything that you like? Is it ramen noodles when it's not going well?
I don't deny myself anything.
Good girl. I've got to hang out with you more often.
Hey, listen, people are dying every day. And when you look at my casket, it's gonna be a smile on my face because I didn't deny myself nothing.
Good girl. I like it. I like it.
Well, for me, at this rate, I will never own a home, and and I will probably never pay off my law school student loans. So, because pretty much all of my money goes into various foods and going out to eat and beer and alcohol and so it's kind of about living in the moment, I guess. But who needs a home, right? I'll just rent for the rest of my life.
Well, you can stay with me. It's fine.
Look, life is for the living.
Life is for
Life
the
is
living.
for the living. And all you people eating tofu and stuff like that, that's a chameleon. That's not real food.
Well,
And when I look in your casket, you're going to be like this.
well, I had that amazing gig, while in Cheers, drinking beer. I mean, really, like, this is my job. I have to look like a guy who wants to drink beer. I'm like, yeah. I'm a lifetime of research in the making of that role. Then I get this other gig on Saturday Night Live as a guy who roots for the Bears and the Bulls, and drinks beer and eats ribs and Polish sausage. It was seriously. I mean, I have been very, very, very lucky.
Okay, and not only that, if I may say, you've been married to the same woman for 30 years. How rare is that?
36 years, 2 days ago.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
can say that? 30. So you have a good life, George.
I have a cousin here who's been married longer than that, I think.
Yes. Stephen is in the audience.
Steve Wendt, are you here? He couldn't get past security. Probably his fake hip or something.
He's over at the Smoke Daddy.
Well, another question I wanted to ask you, is it hard, so for Norm over here, is it hard if you're typecast? I mean, for you, maybe you don't mind because you want to be typecast as a guy who drinks beer, because you do drink beer, but is it hard to be sort of pigeonholed?
Well, I don't really, wind up playing a character like Norm that much, but I've probably been pigeonholed in another way, like where I don't be considered for roles, because I'm too recognizable as the guy who did Cheers.
Sure. So it works against you sometimes.
Yes.
And what about you, G? Do you feel like now you're pigeonholed as the foodie and there's no going out?
Oh my gosh, I never even thought about this question because, I love food. You know what bothers me a little bit is the social media thing. Because sometimes it's just exhausting.
Yes.
And there's
I
a little bit
agree.
of a stereotype there, I guess, being Asian American and having technology around me. I'm like, hey, this is not the only thing I do, okay? So that's a little difficult, I think, because people think that, oh, you must just like to drink beer and be on Facebook and Twitter, which is
Is that not true?
No, actually, in fact, I need some downtime from social media. It's so draining. So, but
Well,
anyway.
That's a question. So you don't do Twitter, George, and you don't do Twitter.
I don't tweet or twat.
You don't tweet or twat. Well, that's good. I'm glad to know that you don't tweet or twat. I don't know how the audience feels, but one of the reasons why this show has been so successful is because people are really looking to connect. And you can't really do that over social media. Everyone's basically just bragging to each other.
There's a lot of lonely people out there.
There's a lot. That's why social media is so popular, because there's a lot of lonely people out there. Okay, speaking of speaking of social media, at Dinu Zinator, this is 4G, What was the defining moment when you figured out what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Oh, well, I have no idea what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm like, I feel like where did my 20s go? I mean,
Yes.
okay, granted, don't beat me up here, Felicia or George, but I'm just saying, I keep waiting for this magical time when all of this wisdom and knowledge befalls you and you become this responsible, completely together adult. And half the time I feel like I'm a cross between Bridget Jones and some other person that can barely put herself together. And I don't know. I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. I just hope I surround myself with wonderful people. I try to be who I am and genuinely who I am, and hopefully that'll get me to where I want to be.
Yes, yes.
My mother says, keep on living. That's
Yeah.
all you got to do is keep on living. Wisdom will come, and time teaches everybody.
I always say, keep your eyes on your own paper, just like they would tell you in school. So don't be concerned with what everybody else is doing, and don't be concerned with how you're not keeping up, or just keep your eyes on your own paper, focus on what you're doing, focus on what makes you happy, not what should make you happy, but what makes you happy, and then it's one foot in front of the other every day.
Except for kids.
Oh, okay, that's our little wrench in the program.
Kids, you can't really be happy if your kids are, messing up.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I once had a person tell me that you're happiest as your most unhappy child.
Oh,
So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
I can see that, absolutely. Does everybody here, who has seen Windy City live? So the front half of the room, which is listening to us, okay, the front half of the room has seen Windy City live. Let's just see a quick clip to get a feel for what happens on Windy City Live and just how great G is, basically.
Well, we're back with culinary stars Rocco DeSpirito and Ming Tsai. And of course, you guys are going to be cooking in the kitchen for us.
We got a couple dishes going. You guys can go ahead and start on that. Rocco, I'm going to have you help me make this eggplant caviar.
No problem. Yeah,
Actually, this is very healthy. You can lose 10 pounds in an hour. Let me do it now. Yeah, do you mind? So Rocco's going to take these eggplants. These are roasted.
Okay.
And he's just going to scoop them into this food processor.
I'll do that. No
Okay.
problem.
And G, I'm going to have you take this roasted garlic,
Okay.
which is very easy, right? You put it in the oven, you take the
Perfect.
top off a little oil, and you're going to squeeze all that
I
here,
will.
and that's going to get added to the eggplant.
Okay, but don't
right.
we always like to start with a
We
drink?
are going to start with a cocktail. You are so on it. So I'm going to get in your way
Sorry,
here.
I'm in your way.
What are you guys
So
making here?
this is a
scooping
great
eggplant.
cocktail called a sake-tini.
Oh, nice.
Sake.
to me?
Yeah, it's like a sake to me. It's Taiku sake. Taiku sake is a delicious sake from Japan. It's a Jumai, which is the second highest rated, and then a little double cross vodka. So it's 3 parts sake, 2 parts vodka.
What is G doing?
I'm just squeezing.
She's squeezing garlic everywhere.
This is you just cut the tops off the garlic,
Yep.
and then you put it in, wrap it in foil, and then you just roast it in the oven,
Was
right?
that already
That's it.
done first, though?
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
roasted.
And then it just squeezes
So,
out.
a couple cucumbers.
So-
Yeah. That's it. Give it a good shake.
Garlic
in there, yeah.
But just to show you, resident foodie, and for those of you a nice, Windy City, I'm told that I have to steal this. And for those of you who haven't watched, which would just be crazy, a nice Windy City live plug now at 11 a.m.
Oh, and George is on tomorrow with us. So there we go.
I'll be there with bells on.
Yeah, and I was told I can sneak in right behind
Okay,
George
you
in
too.
his little shadow, and they won't know.
And we
So-
gotta get Felicia on.
Yes.
Trust me. We gotta talk to your manager or something. We gotta get you on.
We'll have a dinner party
Where's
reunion.
my manager? Where is she?
She's here. So I think our food is going to be coming out at any minute. So your next entree is going to be coming out. And when it does, I'll show you what Chef Zimmerman has been up to in the kitchen. But I wanted to ask you guys another question because you all touched on it. And for technical reasons, I'm not sure why. We're going to have to pass the mic around. But you talk about doing what you love and having fun. And I'm wondering, at what point in your career, because you all have this in common, did you realize that you would be most successful by being yourselves, your authentic selves? And I don't mean playing you on camera that you like to drink beer, but I mean being authentic to who you are, and that was going to be your best card to play.
I don't really know how to be anybody else unless I'm acting a part. And because you are performing and acting like someone else, when you get an opportunity to be yourself, then that's what you are, as yourself. It's an enjoyable part of being honest and forthright with people. So it's a good thing to just be able to be hanging out with people enjoyed the fact that you are a human being. The thing I really wonder about a lot in this business is how people can be arrogant. It's difficult to be in this business, have the kind of ups and downs that we have, and have a bad attitude when we know that we have gone through a lot of struggles, and it's a blessing to be able to do what we do. And I'd like to continue, but my entree has arrived. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm just curious, when you say arrogant, do you mean other actors, or do you mean the producers who do the hiring?
I mean other actors.
Yeah.
I mean other actors that are not accessible.
Yes.
You know, like if George would have walked in and wouldn't have touched everybody and, you know, had 50 million demands for you to, you know, to be present.
He actually had 52 demands. I don't know if you do that.
I don't even believe that. You know, but you know what you go through as an actor.
Yes.
You know you are a human being, that your job just happens to be in front of other people.
Yes.
But we all do the same things as human beings.
Yes.
And even in our lowest points, and sometimes we get very low.
I would think.
And people don't even realize, and they still are riding on your high.
Yes. It reminds me, Oprah Winfrey said when she was trying out for Sophia on The Color Purple, that she wanted that role so bad that she just had to surrender and just say, you know, I'm going to do my best, and then I'm going to leave it. And
When you become a true actor, you recognize that when you're in an audition, you're powerless.
Yes, I see.
Your fate is in the hands of the people that are behind that desk. There's no sense in you worrying about it, because it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yes, right.
Either you might be too tall, too short, too fat, not Asian enough, not black enough, not white enough. It's a bunch of things that can be happening. It's not, some things are not for you.
Right.
So you have to come to terms with that.
Yes,
and
yes.
keep on moving to the next thing.
Yes. That's another thing I think. I'm sorry, that's another thing I think, is that you just have to keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other. So we're all getting our food now, which is great. So we're going to take a little peek and see what Chef Andrew Zimmerman made for us in the kitchen.
We're going to grill a Berkshire pork collar, and we're going to serve it with some grits. And we're also going to put a local cherry salad on top. So you can see we have these nice golden brown croutons. They're not too dark. There's bits, you can see parts that are darker and parts that are lighter, where some parts are going to be really, really crunchy and other parts are going to be sort of tender and chewy. In the salad, we're going to use fresh cherries as well as some pickled cherries, because we wanted to have both of the flavors of like the nice fresh seasonal fruit, and then the acid and the vinegar actually from the pickled cherries is going to build the vinaigrette for us. So this is going to be our cherry panzanella salad. And we're going to let it sit for a little while because we want to draw some of the juices out of the cherries, and that's going to soak into the bread a little bit and moisten it, and then the flavors will have a chance to all blend together. The sauce that we're going to use for our pork collar is going to be a nice rich reduction of pork jus, and to season it, we're going to add a little bourbon. Pork and cherries and bourbon seems like a really great pairing. So we're going to let this simmer for a touch. We do want to keep a lot of the sort of caramely, vanilla, and wood notes that you get. To go with our pork collar, our friends at Three Sisters Farm in Kankakee make really, really great grits, and we like to use them pretty much year-round. They're white corn grits. They're kind of coarse. So we've just cooked these in milk and then finished them with some Parmigiano and a little bit of butter. And we're going to put the pork collar on top of that. this whole dish is built around eating in the summer, so we're grilling a piece of pork. We have from fresh cherries, we've got some corn represented, and they're also really, really rich and delicious. So we've put down the grits. Now we're going to put the pork collar on top of it, and finish it with the cherry panzanella salad right on the top. And there you have it. Grilled Berkshire pork collar, glazed in a bourbon jus on Three Sisters Farms grits with local cherry panzanella salad. It's been a great pleasure to cook for you. Thank you for joining us at the dinner party. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me sometime at Sepia in the West Loop.
Yes, he's back and he's joining the conversation. I hope you people in the back can hear it because Chef Anders Zimmerman is coming up front. Grab a chair, mister. We're going to see if we can scoot you in. George, if it's possible. Felicia, if it's possible. No worries. No worries. Oh, thanks for joining us. So now we're combining mics between, yes, there you go. Now we're combining mics between all of us. So this is a question I had for everybody, but I'm first going to ask Chef. You won Iron Chef, and I wanted to know for all of you how celebrity has changed your life. So now we know, like for Julia Roberts, okay, we know what her life is like because it's just probably unbearable to walk through any crowd. But you guys, all of you
That's
are
exactly the same situation I'm in. It is unbearable. All the time with the, oh, you're so great, and with the cooking and blah, blah, blah. My short answer is I am not a celebrity. I am not well known. And nobody, unless you put me up here and do that, it hasn't changed my life at all. I go to work and I cook and, that's it.
And
I play with my kids and I go home.
You don't feel like people fawn over you because chefs are the new rock stars, as we know. And you don't feel like people are sort of tripping over you, particularly once you win. Now, you won in 2012, so maybe it's simmered down a bit. But you've been a Michelin star restaurant for the last 3 years.
Yeah. But that, there's a lot of Michelin star restaurants in Chicago. We're very fortunate that there's so many good people doing good food here.
Yes.
And I'm, celebrity-wise, it's nice that people think that. I'm not going to complain about it.
I
But
think that.
My wife doesn't think that. She's out
Yes,
there
well.
smirking at me right now. I can feel it, I'm not a celebrity around my house.
Well, yeah, no one's ever a celebrity at home. One would hope not. She's not here. What about you, G, if I can ask you? No, I won't ask you right now because you're chewing. Or can I ask you? Oh, here you go. Yeah, we have to share the mics. So sorry.
Elizabeth, you're the only person that thinks I am a celebrity. Nobody thinks
But this is what I mean. The Julia Roberts of the world, okay, they're clearly celebrities. But you guys could never be recognized, or sometimes you are.
It is super, the most reassuring and nicest thing that ever happens to me is when somebody does come up to me and say, hey, you do a great job on the show.
Yes.
You add something to the show that is missing if you're not there. To me, that is the greatest payoff in the entire world. Having somebody that I don't know come up to me and take the time to say, you do a great job. I really enjoy you on the show, and I watch the show because of you, or this or that, or you add something to it. And to me, that's really the payoff, and I take that with me, and it stays with me.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But what I mean is that because, George is recognized
George is
everywhere.
really the celebrity, and Felicia are really the two celebrities.
But
I heard the cheering when I was coming through.
These two are the celebrities.
Now, listen, visual, like television, movies, and things like that, they're more recognizable because physically you see them. Theater is not the case. If you're a theater aficionado, then you know who I am. First of all, because there are not a whole lot of African American females that are character actors in this business. So definitely, if you're somebody that follows theater, you'll know who I am. But how many people, in comparison to people that watch television and go to movies? Listen, I was in Save the Last Dance. I've been on Chicago Fire. Nobody stops me for that, though. But they see George regularly. They see her every day. So they become a part of their everyday routine. So it makes a difference.
I'm wondering if, because you're in this interim state, Do you ever like think I can't go to the, not I can't go to the grocery store, but I better not go to the grocery store in these shoes? It's almost trickier than being Julia Roberts, you know what I mean? Where you know you can't do anything. But in your case, it's like, shoot, there's that one person who might recognize me, so I can't be in sweatpants. Or can you?
Listen, I see George in the grocery store around my house.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't dress.
He walks with his head
I don't
down.
dress well. I got it. This is tremendous.
Yes,
Andrew.
yes
Thanks.
to the chef. Yes
even
to
the
the chef.
corn.
And,
Yes, yeah.
Now,
and-
I never heard of collar of pork. And oh God, look at that.
There he is.
There's a vision. Yeah, that's Bob Martin on the left. Amazing Canadian writer actor Bob Martin. Anyway, you know, I had I was at my first whole pig cookout once.
Oh dear.
And this Greek fella said, "Oh, George, you must try the cheek. The cheek is the best part." And I was like, I wish you hadn't told me that. You know, like, because you know, it was delicious, but I don't want to know I'm eating the cheek. Now, what is the collar actually? The actual something up here?
Yeah, it's like right at the
Talk about this.
Right.
Can he have a mic?
I got it.
Oh.
Okay, so the collar is, you know, essentially, imagine me as a pig, right about here, the muscle right at the top part of the shoulder on either side, going
Okay.
into the neck, and well, actually no, it comes off of the animal mostly cylindrical, and then we just sort of trimmed it up a little bit and forced it into submission with plastic wrap to make it as round as we could. But it's really kind of like pork shoulder. And then you see it mostly as coppa, the like cured Italian meat. 'Cause in Italy, they'll take this cut, salt it, and hang it for a long time, and then it's like, you know, sliced real thinly and on a antipasti plate or whatever.
And when did you realize in your life that this was all you could do? You didn't have a choice. You wanted to be a chef.
When I realized that if my band played, I lost money, and if I made food, I got paid.
Yay! Well,
Somewhere around 26, I think I'm a little bit slow on the uptake.
I don't know. Some people don't find their calling until much later.
I heard a definition of a musician was a guy who loads $5,000 worth of equipment into a $500 car for a $50 gig.
Exactly. That is exactly my experience, yes,
That-
100%.
A diehard for sure. So, you know, I sort of asked you this before. It's a little different take on the question. So, how do you handle the chaos of the restaurant, but how do you handle the pressure of the restaurant business? Because restaurants often run on a very tricky cycle. Every 2 or 3 years, you're either out of business or reinventing yourselves. And I wondered if you guys had any new things in mind, or, I mean, Sepia is going so well and so strong, so you've already sort of beat the trend. But do you imagine yourself having another restaurant at some time?
Yes, I do. I imagine finding a space for another restaurant. There's a few things that Emmanuel Noni and I are interested in trying to pursue. We just haven't managed to get exactly the right location together yet. And I think in the next year, maybe year and a half, we'll probably see another restaurant. But no leases are signed or anything. So until I see something like that, I'm gonna say it's a perpetual year and a half away. Which in 2 years, it could still be a year and a half away. But, you know, other than that, for the time being, I think the best way to deal with it is we just show up for work every day and try to cook the best food we can and not get too distracted by the rest of it.
Yes, and keep sort of true to your path. You know, in Chicago, we have a lot of great restaurant groups because, of course, we have, you know, Alinea and Next, and they've formed their restaurant group, and then Paul Kahn has many restaurants in One-Off Hospitality, and then the Element Group. So do you think you'll be starting something larger than one restaurant at a time?
I don't know. Anybody want to give me a bunch of money to work on that?
Anybody want to give him a bunch of money?
We'll happily take money, and then we'll open as many restaurants as you people can possibly eat at.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think and G can comment on this, but I think there's no end in sight to where the food, I mean, we're on forget New York, because we've like basically passed New York. We have as many Diamond Star restaurants. Seriously.
I think the greatest thing about Chicago and food is that the Chicago food community is so tight-knit.
Yes.
All the chefs know each other. They're kind to each other. They help each other out. It's really a relationship where they're giving constantly to one another,
Yes.
working together to elevate the food that happens in Chicago.
Yes.
That's, I think, unheard of in other big cities, because I think people in Chicago, it really is, the city of big shoulders, especially in the
Yes.
culinary world, because there isn't a chef here that won't help another chef. And that's
Yes.
what elevates Chicago in a huge way.
So if you're Asian and you are the social media host, then whenever you talk, a tweet has to come in.
Exactly.
So I now have a tweet for Felicia at Office Grapevine. If you could have your own dinner party, who would you invite? And I'll just say you are very smart at Office Grapevine because you have won 2 tickets to the Court Theater. Yippee! Woo! To see Felicia in live. But if you could have your own dinner party, who would you invite?
Sidney Poitier.
Yes, I
love
agree.
Sidney Poitier.
Yes.
I think it's a wealth of knowledge in theater and television, and he's such an elegant a man, always respectful,
Yes.
dignified, and well-spoken. Probably Michael Jordan, because I just would like to get my number 23 on,
Stand in line, baby.
I know,
Stand
that's
in line.
right.
Well, so speaking about Felicia and everything that she does, I don't know. And speaking about Michael Jordan, how do you feel about doing a little sexy something?
Little sexy something. I think I saw a kid here. Is there a kid in the building?
They're way in the back, and the back's not listening. So,
All right, well, we don't have any music, so you just kind of gotta imagine there's music there.
well, take the stage, baby, and take us there.
Since we're talking about food,
This is such a treat to have Felicia perform.
I don't know about that. I don't have a key right now. But I'm gonna talk about a little something sexy. All right, ladies. Ladies.
Yes. Woo!
When you go home tonight, if you have a husband, I want you to whisper in his ear something real hot. Okay?
Okay.
I got a range in my kitchen, sure baked nice and brown. I got a range in my kitchen, sure baked nice and brown. And all I need is some good daddy to turn my dapper down. My range is automatic. You don't have to burn wood or coal. I said my range is automatic. You don't have to burn wood or coal. You just strike your match, baby, and stick it right there in the hole. I said, my pot is boiling low. I said, my pot is boiling low. And if you can't keep it percolating, you gotta pack your bags and go. See, listen, my man thought he was raising sand. I said, listen, Papa, you don't seem to understand where to put that thing. You know what I'm talking about. That dang-a-lang-a, dang-a-lang-a, dang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang. Well, he kept pressing my buttons Oh, but my bell would ring. My man comes in the rain or cold. He's got the right key, but he's working on the wrong keyhole. Just pressing that thing. Don't be shy, girl. Ah, that ding-a-ling-a-ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Ha, 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 ha. He kept pressing my buttons. Oh, but my bell wouldn't ring. It's time to get some batteries, baby.
Felicia Fields, singing on the dinner party.
I said it was X-rated.
Waking us all up. Okay, so basically, she's just wished all of us good sex for tonight. So I want everyone to tweet me tomorrow and tell me how it went. Wonderful, great, great. Thank you for bringing everyone to the forefront.
Awesome.
So, sort of sexy in its own way. I've got a tweet for Chef. And the tweet for Chef is @DivvyTriathlete. You should be very happy because you've just won dinner for two.
Oh!
Dinner for two at Sepia.
I should have tweeted. Come on.
What's your favorite single ingredient? And yes, you can only pick one.
What key?
First of all, I don't know how I'm supposed to say anything after that. Like, yeah,
Well, pick
what's
the
my favorite?
sexiest.
It's my sexiest answer to that question is not going to be very exciting after that. If I could only pick one ingredient as my favorite, in all honesty, it's not going to be very exciting, but it's going to have to be salt.
I knew it.
Oh, wow.
And
I
you ask
knew it.
any chef, they're going to say, if you only give me one and I have to just stick with that, without it, things are just bland.
Really?
You know? Yeah, you got to have that. I mean, there's all kinds of other things I'd love to say that I really like, but it's like if you said, if you could only have one vegetable, what would it be?
Eggplant, because
Wrong.
I'm an eggplant.
No.
Yes, like when I,
I mean,
think
it's
of
your
myself.
it's your vegetables.
corn.
Okay. Corn's good.
Oh.
Onion.
Really?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Gotta be an onion.
Red.
No
Yeah.
onions. I mean, if you
Right.
take onions out of cooking, where
Why
are you
would
left
you-
with?
You are
Yeah.
so right.
What would you
You're the
do?
chef.
Yeah, you'd be messed up. You would- what
See,
for?
I thought you might say butter.
Oh, butter's good. Yeah, butter's real
It's not a
good.
vegetable,
But
but-
I could get by with with just with salt. I could use olive oil and skip the butter. It's still you can still make a lot of stuff that's delicious.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, so going down the line, and please remember to use your mics. Going down the line, do you have a favorite ingredient?
Well, I mean, being like Korean American, it's got to be like a chili flake. I mean, for me, I like things a little spicy.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Lawry's seasoning salt.
Meat.
So I would say sriracha. I just can't get enough sriracha. Talk about spicy.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you love to cook? I know you love to cook ribs. What about you guys? That you cook at home?
I'm known more for meatloaf.
Oh, but a good meatloaf is hard to do.
Yeah.
A good meatloaf.
Yeah.
Not like, from the store, but
I'm like a weird mix because I was born in South Korea, but I immigrated to North Carolina, and I don't mean like Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean like the boonies
Yes.
of North Carolina, like where I was like the first Asian there. And so like I grew up in the foothills, basically of Appalachia. And so I make a really good biscuit and gravy. And it's got to be like white sausage gravy.
wow.
And it's really hard to find a good biscuit. It is. I mean, for me, I know it's weird. I come from South Korea and also the south of the United States, so it's bizarre. Which is why Chicago's a perfect fit for me.
Do you have a cute southern accent if you need it?
Oh yeah, it can come out. Do you want a redneck one or do you want the nice Charleston, South Carolina one?
I want the
I mean,
sorority
I do
girl
both.
one.
Ah, yes, sorority girl. So, George, all of these years that you've been around food and drinking, do you have any good sort of bar stories, any good bar drinking stories that... In fact, how many of you have read George's book, Drinking with George? Yay, George's book. Yay. Okay, if you haven't read it, it's really funny. It's a really
you.
good
Thank you.
read that I've really
Thank
enjoyed. And I don't think I fully knew. So in the book, he talks, basically, it's your life story.
Well, yeah, it's a humor book.
Yes.
And it's roughly chronological about, drinking stories and things like that. Yeah.
Yes. And so over the years of all your drunken endeavors, any one story that stands out?
Oh, they're so awful and evil. I don't know. Like when I was 16, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and there was this hangout at 99th and Western called Jansen's, and it was a high school hangout, like, imagine American Graffiti. And so one day we walked, me and my friend Terry, and I was a late bloomer at 16. I was not a mature man by any means. And Terry, my friend Terry, looked like he was 12. And we walked down Western Avenue, which is famous for the Southside Irish Parade.
Yes, yes.
And so it's bar after bar after bar after bar. So the first one was a place called Littleton's, less than a half a block from this high school hangout. And we walked in, sheepishly peeked. It was very dark. We're good. Oddly dark, and we're like, this kind of works for us. Very empty. Two old geezers, and at the end of the bar, looked at us like, you scumbags, get out of here. And this guy behind the bar, and so we put on our deepest voice, we like two drafts, please. And the guy goes, coming right up, day-dee-day-dee-day. Day-dee-day. And he pulls us a couple of drafts, and we put the money there, and about halfway through our first beer, I realized something. I said, Terry, this bartender is blind. and he goes, are you what? I think he's blind. And yeah, it is awfully dark in here. It's weird. And sure enough, we had found a bar like 75 feet from like the high school hangout with a blind bartender. And so we're sitting there drinking.
How lucky can you get?
We're sitting there drinking, and the two geezers are still you scumbags. And we're like, not a word to anybody. Shut up. Because if this gets out, it's going to, like 3 days later, there was like 150 kids in this bar. I think they put a bicycle rack out in front of the bar. It was like, and of course, by the end of the week, the Chicago's finest discovered.
Did they shut it down?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for the old geezer. I'm sure he probably, I'm sure it all worked out. But, he probably got a slap on the wrist. I mean, the guy was probably an ex-copper himself, Anyway, that's one of many awful, awful stories. Embarrassing, truly embarrassing stories you can find in that book.
I recommend, thank you. I highly recommend that book, really, no joking. It's really a fun read and a fun book. So it dawned on me, how great is it that we're here in Chicago tonight? Finally, we've got good weather, because we all know it could have been hailing. Like, it seriously could have gone that way. Gorgeous night. We're in front of the most beautiful architecture in the world. We're talking food. So this is so Chicago. We're talking food. We're talking blues. We're talking improv and theater. So there's only one thing that's missing, and that would be sports. And so I've had I've had Phil Emery, the general manager of the Bears, on the dinner party. And when I told him that George was going to be on the show, after, George being the ultimate super fan, I asked the general manager of the Bears if he would Skype in for us tonight. There he is, Phil Emery, at the City Winery, where we usually do this show. And he's traveling for the Bears because they're starting practice and seasons and it's coming. But he had this to say. So, from Phil Emery, I'm glad you had the chance, everyone, to spend the evening with Elizabeth, that's nice, at the dinner party tonight, along with so many great Bears fans in this room and that are in the audience. Phil is a big fan of your work, George. Sad that I couldn't join you in some way for the show tonight via Skype. However, very much look forward to the opportunity to meeting you in the future and talking to you about Chicago and the Bears. Best wishes to everyone as you enjoy a fastic meal, great conversation at the dinner party. Fear no art and go Bears!
Okay.
So that's a...
All right, now that we got our dessert, oh, some of you don't. Some of the little people do not have their desserts yet. So in the meantime, why don't we, another toast then? Go Bears!
Woo! Cheers to that, yes! Oh, I'm gonna tell Phil, he's gonna love it. Just love it. So, on a humanitarian note, right before we end, I have one more question for Chef. Chef, while we all eat our dessert,
Yes.
can you tell us about the American Chef Corps? Because I understand that you're part of it, and I just learned what this is and how exciting it is. Has anyone heard of the American Chef Corps? Part of the U.S. government? Go ahead.
I was asked by the State Department, along with several other chefs, all who have been in some way or another affiliated with the James Beard Foundation, if we would be available and amenable to the idea of trying to, be sort of goodwill ambassadors, more or less, and accepting that we all kind of connect through food one way or another.
Yes.
And so when the opportunity arises, some of us, it can be something like in the form of a state dinner, like Rick Bayless is also a member of this, and he cooked
Yes.
at the White House for the President of Mexico.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
How cool
or,
is that?
Any way that we can go, whether it's here in the U.S., hosting people from another country, or going to other countries and bringing our food there, and just sharing the conversation and the culture with each other. So far, it's a really cool thing to be asked to do. And there you go.
I mean, I think it's brilliant because as we've all seen, food really brings people together. And so if you've got a political situation and you're trying to get two sides of the table, food is just one more way of sort of bridging that gap. And of course, particularly in Chicago, we have some of the best food around the world because we have so many immigrants. So we have great Mexican food and great Polish food, of course, great American food and great Thai food. And so it makes so much sense, I think, as a way to bring people together. And so it's new. It's only about 2 years old, right? 3? Yeah. Well,
it's amazing you guys. I mean, the presentation is
beautiful.
so spectacular. It's almost like you really need to have a very keen eye for design as well, in a sense, right?
It helps, I guess. Yeah, it definitely helps. I think that there are people whose presentations are way more elaborate and beautiful and fancy pants than mine, but you eat with your eyes first, right? So, I mean, you're going to look at the food, and if it doesn't look good, your chances are, well, that's super subjective. Like, ribs in a box can look good if they're good ribs, right? But if, people are going to look at it and decide whether or not they want to put it in their mouth, so we try to make sure it looks good for them.
And when did everything become, I mean, I was kind of amazed. I should have known. I don't watch the shows much, frankly, the food porn shows. And but watching your staff back there, how much of it is tweezers and
Yes.
syringes and little things.
Precision.
It's amazing. When did that happen?
I believe it. Right. Sure. No, it was January 8th. No, I'm not exactly sure. We all just started. I know that a lot of us drifted towards getting increasingly specific with the way we wanted our food to look and over time we started adapting tools that you would like tweezers and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily associate with cooking, but it really does allow us to make the plates consistently the same and work with real little things like the sprigs of garnishes and
So
things like that. And they're well, I lost mine, but they're efficient and good. In the same way that we've also taken That's another one that, yeah, the little tiny palette knife.
I thought you were carrying
It's no. That's in my back pocket.
It's true. I think there's nothing that brings us together like food. And when it's as beautiful as this to me is a little garden. I mean, it's just so beautiful. When it's as beautiful as this, you know, it's so tempting. And it, again, across the aisle, it really reaches out. And I also think that music does that. So I don't know if you would sing us one more song. It may be unfair to ask you on the spot like this. But while we're all sucking on our dessert, maybe you could engage us one more time.
All right,
She's
I'm
back.
not going to be dirty.
Okay,
I'm going to be clean. This is for the children. What good is melody? What good is the music? If it ain't possessing something sweet, it ain't the melody. No, it ain't the music. There's something else that makes the tune complete. Well, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do I, 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 do I? Don't mean a thing. All you gotta do is sing. Skilly do I, do I, do I, do I, do I, do I, do I. Well, it makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. You gotta give that rhythm everything. Give it every little bitty thing. You got it down. Ain't nothing if it ain't got that swing. Do I, 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 do I. Let me hear you say it.
do up, do up, do up, do up, do up, up.
I can't hear you.
Do up, do up, do up, do up, do up, do up.
Da do da do 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 ba do 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 do. Do I 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 do I.
There's no Felicia Fields in the house, like no other, like no other. There's no better note, literally, to end on than having Felicia sing for us. I want to thank all of you for coming. You know it's been a good dinner party conversation when we've talked. Let's see, we've had some politics and food and music and improv, and it's just a great night. Thank you, everybody, for coming because your energy means so much. I'm sorry for the back half of the room because I'm not sure you were with us in full, but the front half of the room, you really had it going on, and you were really helpful. Great to have you here. We're going to stay, bounce around, mingle a little bit. I want to thank again the City of Chicago, the Mayor's Office, the Department of Cultural Affairs, and of course Ann Hickey, who just worked so hard. I want to thank Washburn Culinary College. They were great tonight getting us everything, of course. The dinner party does not usually take place in a tent. It usually takes place at Chicago City Winery, and our next dinner party is September 23rd, so I hope you'll come out. Our chef is Bruce Sherman of North Pond, so it's gonna be good. And we're lining up the celebrity guests just like tonight. We're lining up the new guests for next time, so I hope you'll mark your calendars, September 23rd. If you have a minute, on your table there's some questionnaires so you can give some feedback about tonight. That's always so helpful. And that enters you for a chance to win dinner for two at the next dinner party. So tickets are to the next dinner party. Anybody who won a tweet prize, come see me or go see Allie Drum, who's doing social media right back there. She'll get you your prizes. Thank you for coming. I want to thank G from Windy City Live. Felicia Fields, we love her. chat.
Yay.